Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Entrepreneurship Matters. I'm Alicia Wilson, Vice President for Economic Development for Johns Hopkins University and Health System. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to two electrifying entrepreneurs. We started this, we're on our 35th week. Started it at the urging of an amazing young entrepreneur, Camry Moses, who herself has a business, KRS Smoothie, to really feature amazing entrepreneurs that are in our community. And today is no different. What we know is successful businesses and successful entrepreneurs are not built in a day. It takes a lot of grit, passion, multiple failures, and a long-term commitment to make it happen. Today, we are joined by two business owners in the electronics and electrical field. So we are going to really spark a lot of great conversation with these two gentlemen. So let me invite them, Mr. Renard, Gardner and Darrell, Lanier, to come on screen. Let me give you their bios, which are impressive, and as they are, and you will see why I say this is really a treat for all of us on this Thursday afternoon to have these two gentlemen. They didn't even charge me a speaker fee, although Mr. Lanier might charge me in a couple of weeks when everybody realizes he is one to be booked. But let me give you their bios, and we're going to jump right into this conversation. So Renard Gardner is the president at Vessel Electric, a full-service electrical contracting firm that provides professional, low, and medium-grade voltage electrical services on large, medium, and small construction projects, as well as delivers customized electrical services to commercial and residential customers. Vessel Electric was founded in 2006 and is located right here in Baltimore. And he is a graduate of the Be Local Build College. Welcome, Renard. Next, we have Mr. Lanier, Darrell Lanier. He started Lanier Electronics in 1992, a firm that not only provides superior electrical and electronic services, but superior customer service as well. His affection for the electrical industry, which started at a young age, we're going to talk about that. When did you start fell in love with electricity, led him to a career as a master electrician prior to founding Lanier Electronics Group. He has a passion for doing things right the first time and lives by the motto, by any means necessary, which he instills with his team. Over the decades, he has built an enviable reputation in the industry by providing a second to none, rapid and reliable service across all types of sectors. Again, this is a real treat for us to hear from these two gentlemen. They came in their Sunday's best. So we appreciate that on today's episode, and we'll jump right into the conversation. I'll start with you, Mr. Lanier. Darrell, y'all look dressed in suits, so keep trying to put a mitt in front of your name. We're gonna use all first names, but y'all look so nice. I want to put a handle on your names. But why don't you talk about, your bio tells us you were fell in love with electricity as a young age, but what inspired you to be an entrepreneur?
I would say growing up, and I'll start there. I mean, right outside of Philadelphia, came from a large family. It was 8 of us. And, my parents really instilled the work ethic. They were hard workers. One was in the Scott Paper Company industry. My mother was a nurse, and they just worked hard. They were hard, very diligent, So there, growing up, they instilled that in us. You can work hard. That's one thing you can do. You can get out there and work. So as we were growing and we were into sports, we knew that, eventually sports would stop and you'd have to find something else to do, right? Mm-hmm. So we in our community, we had some local small businesses, and I used to work, let me back up. Actually, at the age of 8 or 9 years old, I actually worked at a little corner store, stocking shelves. And then I had a little route with paper. I actually sold the Jet magazine. You guys may not remember that.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah. So, I had a little entrepreneur bug in me at a young age. Mm-hmm. So as we started to grow, and I got involved in the electrical field, the gentleman around me, we were doing some electrical work, and work around electronics and fire alarms and things of that nature. So I knew then that, look, this was something I like to do because I like working with my hands. So from there, after school, I did some training, went to school. Then I took the electrical test, passed that. And then I had family in the Maryland area, DC. So I said, okay, it's time to leave this area and wind up in the DC, Maryland area. And started out working with a gentleman, basically. And I knew I wanted to do my own thing, but I went with him to be his lead guy. And the business was, not doing well. And I kind of built the business. Of course, all of a sudden, Darrell, I'm not sure I'm ready to retire. So I just came home one day and I talked to my wife with 2 young kids and said, look, we could do this. And of course, my wife said, what did you just say? We're like, we're going to make this happen. And here I am.
Excellent. The powerful story of really the work ethic coming very early on. And really this sort of felt like a budding of the entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, certainly as a salesman, and then, having that conversation with your wife and launching forward. I'm going to come back to you, ask you a question about how'd you start that business, but let me talk to Mr. Gardner. How did you, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Well, like Mr. Lanier, I've had that entrepreneurial bug since a young age. I watched my grandfather run a small roofing business. And as a young kid, he let me go with him. So I went out on the jobs with him, climbed on roofs, and I just wanted to do everything he did. I watched how he affected the people that worked for him. I watched how his customers, that some of them became lifelong friends. So I think that's where that bug got rooted. Just watching them interact and do all of his day-to-day activities in business. And as a kid, it looked fun. I didn't understand the ins and outs of the business. I just saw him interacting with people, some that I came to know as Uncle such and such or cousin so-and-so. So I think that's where the entrepreneurial bug got rooted.
No, so how old were you? So Darrell said he's 8 or 9 selling stocking shelves in the corner store, and then he's selling Jet magazines. How old were you when you were going with your grandfather?
The earliest age I can remember probably is 7.
Wow. I mean, that's really, really, I mean, we're already getting comments on Facebook, having those strong role models makes a difference.
It does. It really does.
Huge impact on kids. And I know we have a number of young people watching, so I know they're taking out notes. This is the point where I'm gonna tell everybody, take out your notes. We're about to get into the gym period. The jewels, they're gonna be dropping jewels in just a second. But what steps did you go through to start your business? I'll go back to you, Darrell. You talked about that conversation with your wife. And after that conversation, how did you launch into starting your business as from a practical standpoint?
Well, once of course, we went through the process through the state. We became licensed, got incorporated. And then I had a base of clients that kind of knew me, and I just kind of reached out to them, and they knew the type of work that I did. And it gave me a few opportunities. So, and I would always tell them, just give me that opportunity. Give me that one chance. I can prove that I can make this happen. So that's kind of how it started. But it becomes, and I'll say that it's always a monetary issue when you're first starting out in business, because, with the family and, there's a cost associated with this. So it becomes very difficult down the road because, once you start, you're buying supplies, now you're waiting on the vendors to pay you. So it's a lot of accounting that I think people don't really understand associated with going into business. But that's kind of what I did. I just went out there and started working, and I found some good customers, and they depended on me. I depended on them, and we kind of grew the business that way.
Excellent. A lot of gems you just dropped. One, you got legal. So you went, got all your legal documents through the state. 2, you had a base of clients. And I know you talked about, you had a body of work that you had done when you were an employee. And no doubt that work and your work ethic allow for you to convert some of those clients and build a base off of referrals. Then you talked about, wanting the opportunity, really seeking out the opportunities. And we're going to get into this in a moment, but you also just highlighted, some of the challenges, right? The cash flow, the invoicing, you make the investment and then the investment pays off a little later on. So all those are great points and great insight that you provided. How about you, Renard? How did you go from
I have an interesting
license
story.
Yes.
Well, I started numerous business during college. Like I said, I had the entrepreneurial bug early on. I tried roofing. I did cabinets. I did all manners of things. But how I ended up in the electrical trade was through a tragedy. I was a nursing student, actually. I worked at Johns Hopkins, and a family, I worked in shock trauma, a family member came through and passed. And like I said, I've been in and out of the trades. My father's a tradesman. So at that point, I decided just to go and kind of give that field up and just do electrical. I thought electrical was going to be a short stop. I never thought it would end up being my career, the business that I wound up running, the service I wound up giving to the public. So in that, so I ended up in the electrical field, went through my apprenticeship, got my license, got my master's license. And at that point, what I knew was that I had a skill and I could do it well. And I wanted to go back into business. But the business that I had before pretty much was just word of mouth. Books was just receipts in a drawer in my at my home office. And that's how I started this business. Really just going in with a skill, saying I can give a service and just like Mr. Lanier said, you give me a chance, I'm going to prove to you that you're going to want to keep me around and have me do continued work for you. I started with a ladder hanging out the back of a Ford Taurus, running from place to place, building to building. I remember the first time I negotiated a job, it was for a house. The gentleman, we had a number. He said 15. I had no idea how to estimate a job. I said, wonderful. I went to go get my deposit. He had $700. I said, this is not right. You said 15,000. He said, no, 1,500. I mean, just the disconnect, and what I'm trying to explain is how I did not understand business. So I got into business with a skill and a desire. And then I had to learn the business along the way.
So very good. I mean, one, thank you for the reveal, and thank you for, someone else out here has the skill, and they're trying to figure out how to monetize it, how to estimate, how to do all those things. Let me say this to the audience before I get any further. I see folks are already putting questions in the chat. I welcome that. So put your questions in the chat if you're with us on Zoom. If you're on Facebook, put them in the chat in Facebook. Or if you're listening on the phone, you can text your questions to 22333 and type JHUWL in the message. I'll get all of those questions and I'm going to weave them into our conversation. Let me pick up where you just left off, which is this question came in, and I'm going to weave it into the conversation right now. There were things that you didn't know. Are there things you didn't know, Darrell? When you started out your business, some of them you learned from others, some of them you learned because you had to learn them because they were mistakes. They're things you had to pivot on. Question someone asked, how would you advise someone who wants to start a business? Where do you advise them to go to learn some of those things so they don't have to live those lessons? And where might you advise them to start? So Darrell, you have some suggestions, and then Renard.
I would say it's great to have some type of mentor because it's a lot out there. Okay, I mean, every day it's a new day in business, and I've been in business for almost 30 years, but it's really difficult. So therefore, if you could find some type of mentor to work with to start, I think that'd be really helpful because they can kind of talk to you about the ins and outs of and you can actually see what's happening out there.
Mhm.
That's what I would recommend,
Mhm.
if possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would second that. But one thing I took for granted early on was organizations.
Mhm.
I had opportunities to be part of different organizations, but I figured, look, I have a skill. I mean,
Yeah.
and I can do the skill. I'm just gonna go to work. The rest will work itself out. Figure I'm a smart guy. I can kind of pick up what I don't know along the way. And it don't work that way. You are going to pick up things, but I mean, in the proper organizations, you can learn, like you said, to avoid some of the pitfalls others have. You can find that mentor. I went through Be Local. I went to through Goldman Sachs program, and things that I thought I knew, we dug in ways that I didn't think about digging into it, and I realized how to put like 2 + 2 is 4. I mean, but I mean, I didn't realize that sometimes you had to do 2 times 2. I mean, you had to do 2 times 5. I mean, and there's with the proper organization, you can get your hand held to
Mhm.
learn those skills that you don't come to the table with, that in business you're going to need. Because when it's tax time,
Oh,
the IRS going to want their money,
they
whether
want
you
their
know what
money.
you're doing or not.
Yes.
So there's foundational skills that you need in running a business, that if that's not your natural inclination, if you're not an accounting, if you're not in some type of business management, you're going to need that help. So I would say go find some organization where you can find mentors and that can help walk you through those early days.
Absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned 2 organizations, Be Local Build College, as well as the 10 KSB program. KSB is taking applications on a rolling basis. So is the Be Local Build College. So great advice. This I'd like to pivot to something that both of you talked about is, how people know both of you as folks who deliver high quality work on time, on budget or under budget. I'm in there. But you're known for that. And in our research of both of your firms, that's what people say about you, even within large institutions. But can you tell folks, how did you go about building your clientele? How'd you grow what you have now? Darrell, what would you say?
Um, we were, and basically what we do, I mean, as we start to grow, we start to actually go out and bid on jobs, the municipality, state jobs, school districts. So we actually started bidding on jobs, and we started to win a few of these jobs, and it was on a smaller spectrum. So and that's part of what we talk about. Once we got in there and started winning these smaller jobs, and they start to see the quality of work, because everyone out there, they also need good companies too, and they want to be around good companies and do work with good companies. So as we start to do the work and establish ourselves, they would actually come back and say, wow, you guys are good. Well, how about this? Well, can you do that? And that's a part of our expansion, just reaching out and doing the little things, starting out small. And as we start to grow, the companies really start to, say, look, hey, these guys are all right. How about this? How about that? So that's part of our expansion and the bidding process. I mean, we have estimators. We go out, we bid jobs, and it's what a lot of people don't realize. It's not totally about price. A lot of these jobs are based on price, but you got to make sure that you bid properly and you have the monies in there to be successful and make a profit. I think Renard, he was just talking about it, that, when they mentioned 15, he thought it was 15,000, it was 1,500. And that can make or break a small company starting. So you have to be real mindful of things like that. But that's kind of how we built our base. And then we went from there and, started to get into some larger projects. But it was, we started out at the bottom there.
How about you, how about you, Renard?
But
What would you say?
I started off basically with family and friends.
Mhm.
Anyone that I came across, whether it was in a store, if I was in line and I heard somebody talking about a construction project, I would, kindly introduce myself and say, this is my service. And if you need an electrician, please give me an opportunity. Really in the early days, I just was really hungry to get in front of people. Just give me a chance. I'll put in one receptacle, whatever it is, whatever it takes for you to realize I'll come and do a good job at a good price. At least what I thought was a good price at the time. And that's pretty much how it started. And then that kind of grew from doing small jobs to doing a house. And then we moved from doing residential to getting into commercial. Now, once we made that jump from residential to commercial, we had to kind of learn how to navigate those waters, the bidding process, be it government or be it private. We actually, in our 5th year, we landed a government contract. And that was just
huge accomplishment.
It was. It really excited. We still have that contract to this day. But the way we came across that contract is because I was talking to somebody who was saying, why don't you bid these jobs? And I was saying, I would love to. Where do I go? How do I do it? And then they pointed me to the website, but then I'm looking at all this information that I didn't know how to decipher in the beginning. So once we kind of worked through that and learned how to properly put together a proposal and submit it, we got into there and we did an excellent job. Like I said, we still have that contract to this day. And then that allowed our reputation to grow to where we could get an opportunity with a general contractor, a builder. And then it's about performing. Business is about relationships. Yeah. So, once you get in front of people and then they believe that you're honest, you have some integrity, they may give you an opportunity. Then once you get that opportunity, you have to take advantage of it and perform. And if you do, you'll get more opportunities.
That's right. Good. When I was, I practiced law for a number of years, and business development, of course, is a part of law. Just like y'all selling services, we're selling services. And one of my mentors said the best way to get more work is you do that work that's on your desk really well. And word of mouth will get you so many more businesses. So y'all are getting a lot of love on Facebook as well as in this chat. Let me give you one of them. Someone they must call you. They don't even call you Darrell. They just call you Mr. Lanier. Mr. Lanier inspiration. He's been in business a long time. So that leads me to this next question, which is what this person who gave you your flowers today. Is there anything you would do differently? Is there anything you would tell your former self in business?
Anything that I would do differently? That's a good one there. In business, even with a successful business, and this is just Darrell talking, you always kind of second guess yourself, not to the point where you make changes, but if I'd have done this or if I'd have done that. But overall, no, it's just hard work. You go out there and you make it happen. So there's always somebody on your shoulder saying, well, are you sure? But no, I say no because, almost 30 years in business, something's right. You understand? Yeah. We've done something right. So that's how I kind of look at it.
Now, what they followed up with that, what would you tell your younger self? As you were going through, you may have known that it was going to be 30 years or more.
Right.
But you may not have. You may have questioned at some points. What would you tell your former self?
What would I tell my former self? I think if I had to, when you start in business, especially when I went out there and in what we do, it's a lot of time. You spend a lot of time out. And being that I had a younger family, that's the, I shouldn't say problem, but that was the issue, because it's a lot of time taken away from the family. So I guess I would have delegated or navigated, did a few things where I could spend more time with the family, because it takes a lot of time in business. And
No, we've heard, yeah, every entrepreneur that has come over here, they talk about this being their second spouse or their third or their fourth child. So no, I mean, that is the 24/7, 365 aspect of being a business owner. It's something, I think that's a really important insight for you to be able to impart. Renard, they're asking you the same question, also giving you kudos for being an excellent electrician. What advice would you give for your former self?
Slow down. Early on, I was very anxious to be successful, and in doing that, I poured all of my time and effort into it. Like I said, it is like another spouse or a child. I looked at it like a child, because you have to nurture it, you have to feed it, you have to take care of it so it can take care of you later on. But in doing that, I was trying to do too much all at once. Whereas though there's steps that I should have took early on. I mean, there's times you get spread so thin. I mean, you 10 o'clock at night trying to do receipts, and you still have to be up 5 in the morning to get to the next job. So it's kind of slow down to make sure that all of the foundational pieces are in place. And if you're doing quality work, success will come. I believe that, especially if you're giving a service that people need, and you give it to them at a good price point. So it would be to slow down and kind of take in the journey, to make sure that I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's, because later on, once you're going from the second step to the third step, it makes it a little bit easier if you don't have those holes because you was moving too fast in step one.
No, absolutely. No, this question has come in a couple of times in a couple of different ways. So we're going to get to this. I was going to leave this as the crescendo, but I'm going to do it now. What's been your greatest achievement thus far? Y'all are getting a lot of kudos from folks. Just really proud of both of you, and really inspired by even how you're presenting today. So Darrell, what has been the greatest achievement thus far? We know the best days are ahead.
Yes, no doubt. My greatest achievement,
yes,
I think, with what success I've had, being able to reach back out and give to the community. We have a mentorship program. We have a training program. We do a lot with the schools in Baltimore City, providing breakfast in the mornings, things like that. Prince George's County, we do a lot with. So, I mean, that's been a reward for me, just to sit and watch and give a young person an opportunity to possibly do some of the things that we do. That's just, it brings joy to me, and that's what but being able to do that. I mean, we started a scholarship from Prince George County Community College in my dad's name to help young folks out there to go to school. So that's kind of things that, just be able, from my upbringing to do what I do now is just, it's very rewarding,
No, it's a blessing to be a blessing. Yeah, that's and I know of the great work you've done. I've been. This is a real treat for me to get to meet both of you. As I have not my electricity has not gone down, so I've not needed that. I know of the great service you both do. How about you, Renard? What's been your greatest achievement thus far?
That would be the people I've had the privilege of training. We have a community aspect as well, and coming from the area that I did, like I said, I've always had that entrepreneurship bug, but there was times that I was looking around for other examples, and I didn't see a lot of them. I didn't see a lot of those examples. So I made it a purpose to go back into those same neighborhoods and give folks opportunities to gain a career if this particular trade fit them. I have a gentleman that is actually older than me that had a rough start, but he came to me as a helper, and he decided to go through the apprenticeship, and now he's an electrician, and he's actually branching off to do his own thing. Those are the things that I'm proud of, because it gives them a skill that they can go and leverage. On top of it, also helps the company because we try to grow and promote from within. So I would say the people that I've got the opportunity to touch.
Yeah. Now, both of your comments made people ask, do you both mentor? Now people now like, can I get a mentor in Renard and Darrell?
I think Mr. Lanier, he has the years and the wisdom. I have, and I do. I'd love to try to help other people that's in business, folks that's just looking for some advice. So yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. Let's get back to what caused both of you to take the leap into entrepreneurship. So many people talk about there's go from W-2 to a K-1. For those who don't know, that's the tax. It's a different, that's how your stuff gonna come in a different way when you come from when you go from being an employee to an owner. But what helped you to make that leap? Darrell, what took you, when you were sitting down, I know you talked about your prior employer, try to, winding down or slowing down, but what caused you to not say, I'm going to go to another employer, but make the leap into business, being an entrepreneur?
Well, from the start, I knew what I wanted to do. Of course, wanting to do and actually doing it is two different things. Okay. Yeah. So I knew I was going to build my way to, but, if I'd have stayed with the firm and become, the president of the firm, I'm sure, that may be a situation where I could still be there. But once that happened, that was, I always had the bug. I always wanted some type of ownership. So when it didn't happen, that was it. But that was the plan from the start, to go out there and make things happen. It was just something that's, it's something that's just in you. Hard to describe it, it's just not something you can just kind of say, okay, this is what we would like to do. But it's just, I'm not sure on the numbers, but it was 95% of the people, want to do things, but it's only 4 or 5% that's going to make things happen in a big way. And I was been blessed to be one of that percentage, I guess, it's just not something that you can just say, here it is,
Yeah.
You have to know within.
No, absolutely. How about you, Renard? What made you take that leap?
For me, I think Mr. Lanier touched on it. It has to be in you. Like I said, it just was in me. I was working at had a good employer. I was working at a good place. It just was in me to do my own thing. And I don't want to kind of skate over that, because starting your own business, being an entrepreneur, is a sacrifice for yourself, your loved ones. I remember the first 8 months I was in business, I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. The next maybe year, I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life, but because it was costing me more than I thought. But I still had that drive. It didn't change how hard I was going out there working, the quality of my product, because it was just in me to do. So I think that's really just what caused me to do it. And I thought about it before I did it for probably about a year almost. So it wasn't just a spur of the moment. It just was time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me also give you some more kudos. This is someone on Facebook said, as businesses grow, community should benefit. And so thank you to Darrell and Renard for their commitment to uplifting others. Well done, gentlemen. Let me talk about relationships, because both of you throughout your remarks thus far have talked about relationships, mentorship. So can you talk about how important has relationships been in your success Of course, your hard work has been a credit to it, but what role has relationships, and I'm imagining that question is coming from other entrepreneurs who are trying to build and trying to understand the value. So Darrell, what would you say?
I guess once you get out there and you meet people, I mean, you have to have some type of a bond with them, or try to build a relationship. But I also think once you bring on employees, building that relationship, because you're only as good as your employees. Okay, if they're not making it happen, you're not going very far. So, I mean, that's one thing I really stress: building the relationship within the company. And I always tell people we're more family than anything. You know, we care about one another, we look after one another. So that's what's important to me. I mean, when I first started, I've had a couple of guys with me almost 25 years. Okay, and that's the relationship that we try to build within. Once we go out to the clients, you know, once we get the work done, it doesn't stop there. We check on them and make sure there are any issues, anything we can do. There's been a number of times where we didn't really do what we're supposed to do, maybe, and didn't make the monies we needed to make. But once we sign that contract, it's our job to complete the work. And that's how we built relationships, because people will come back and say, yeah, we know it wasn't there, but you were truthful. You made things happen. And that's part of the building of the company. That's kind of that's our model. You know, we make it happen. Whatever it takes, we have to make it happen.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Renard? How have you been able to do?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So how have you been able to leverage relationships? How have you been what's been the import of relationships in your build?
Business wise, it's been like I said, I've grown to realize that they are very powerful. Because of relationships, especially, let's take COVID, for example. Before COVID, we were working for a handful of general contractors, and we performed well. One in particular, we kind of had a break. I mean, job ended. We didn't win the next job or two. But after COVID, I got a call saying, Renard, look, we really want to get y'all on one of our projects again. Let's see if we can get to the number we need to be at. That's relationship. And that is going to be the job after COVID that help gets us back to the levels that we were at before COVID. So they are very valuable. Not only that, I think also for me, I have like almost a board of counselors that they aren't electricians. Most of them not even in business, but they help keep me centered as an entrepreneur, keep me focused when those frustrating times come, so that I can keep my eyes on the prize and keep moving forward. So I think relationships are invaluable.
No, and you talked about the value of relationships, and COVID probably, you just talked about how COVID has impacted. So let me go there with the conversation, which is a question that's been posed by, again, a number of ways on here. How have you shifted or pivoted or dealt with its impact on your business? And you're in the construction field, right? Commercial, residential, but of course there's been an impact. But Darrell, how have you pivoted? And then Renard.
That was a difficult time for us. We just landed a major job, and we had millions of dollars of equipment in a warehouse and nowhere to put it. But supplier, they're saying okay, but they need their monies. And what basically got us through that, and I'll say that, is I've always had a motto when it comes to debt. Okay, as a small business, we just carry very little debt. And that's always been one of my mottos. And that's pretty much what got us through it, because by not having that other debt, we're able to take care of the suppliers to keep things afloat. But I did, some of our competitors, they were hit hard with that. So that's pretty much, how we got through this, because, monies are out there, and companies, they just, look, we shipped it, and we want to be paid, and we're like, okay, but there's nowhere for it to go. And we made it happen. So I mean, I think that's just, my motto from years ago really happened. Not having that debt from the vehicles to, I mean, we have an office building, we have a training facility, but we carry very little debt. And I think that's probably a good reason I'm talking to you right now.
No, that's a really good point, because and good advice for others that, you had that mantra before COVID. And if you didn't have it before COVID, you wouldn't have been able to make those choices and may have avail yourself of those opportunities. So it's good advice for folks who are listening. You want to access the capital, but if you carry too much debt, there's a point where it starts to hit and you can fall apart. Excellent advice. Renard, what would you say? How is COVID? You talked about this client that you were able to continue to hold on to, but how did your business get impacted by COVID?
Well, it was especially hard on our employees, because we found ourselves, we had to do some downsizing. We found ourselves with contracts that we still had to maintain, even though their employees were furloughed, sent home. So they're not processing invoices. So our cash flow went down to a trickle. And it goes what Mr. Lanier said about how you manage your debt. So in managing that, on top of that, future contracts, so jobs that were booked got put on hold. And now you're not sure what your backlog looked like. So that it was a uncertain time. And we had to kind of navigate those waters. And what I like to do, I like to make sure that my employees have some sense of stability. We're going to be here today, we're going to be here tomorrow, we'll be here the year after that. And we weathered that. And now that we're here, we now can sit down and go over those lessons. So we can basically shore up our foundation a little bit more. So as much as COVID is a tragedy, it's been the other side of the coin. It allowed us to see where our weak spots at and shore up a little bit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Let me ask this question, because y'all there's so many people interacting with y'all today. So I don't know if I'm gonna get to all the questions, but I promise I will. I'll try my best. But let me get to this question, which is, we were very fortunate when we advertised this. We also advertised it to a number of contractors, private employers, private companies. We always advertise it to Oprah. We hope she watched, as well as Melody Hobson, some other folks. So what we want to ask you is, how can folks support you? What's the difference maker in supporting you, but also businesses like yours, right? So the Lanier electronics of 10, 15 years ago, the Vessel electric from 10 years ago. How can we support businesses so that we can have more businesses like yours in our community? Because as you've talked about, there's a ripple effect. You all have been, impact our community in such positive ways. So how can those folks support you? Darrell, what would you say to them?
I would say the John Hopkins and businesses in the area giving Lanier Electronics the opportunity to do work with them, because if we get in and do work, now we can continue to support the community, because I like to talk about how the money stays in the area. We're in the state of Maryland, we're in Virginia and DC, so therefore, you don't have, which is okay. I understand business, but if I can do work with a business that's in the area, now the money is kind of recycling, and things can move forward. So, and it gives us the opportunity to do work, and so things like that, because the bidding process is difficult. We could sit here and I've been blessed to be in business the amount of time, but every day, it's a challenge. And once you think you've made it, well, you know, you're in trouble in business, because it's every day is a challenge out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Renard, what would you say to the folks we have watching, wanting to know how we can support, how we can,
Yeah,
there are more vessel electrics out there?
yeah, like Mr. Lanier said, opportunity. Because as you continue to grow, you basically need more opportunity for funding, because growth it can be expensive. You need to be able to get in front of the right people, and then those sometimes you need help navigating waters. Because the bidding process may change from organization to organization. There's a lot of similarities, but then there's some differences. Because as a small business, I didn't realize early on that like I might be bidding to a GC, and then a GC is bidding on a job, so I'm a pool of 100, opposed to finding a way to get maybe down to a pool of 10, of even 50. So help navigating those waters, because like Mr. Lanier said, once you support small local businesses like ourselves, those we normally go back to the same communities that we're in, and we hire from those communities, we spend in those communities, we invest in those communities, build with our buildings, our tax dollars. So it just, I think it makes sense to continue to help us to become stronger. So, Mr. Lanier, have your forecast for this year picked up? How does things look like it's going to be in the next year or so?
We're actually looking pretty good. Right now, a lot of things are in the pipeline. It's back to what you said. We still, you know, a little concerned with this COVID situation. I'm not sure if we got to the point where you know, it's in a relaxed mode, if you know what I mean. So, you know, we have things in the pipeline. We do a lot of work with school systems, but you know, we're just not sure. You know.
Now, how was expansion? Because I heard you say you're in Virginia, you're in Maryland. How was expansion for you? I mean, that's phase where you started growing from a local area to being in multiple states.
The DMV. It's you know, it's back to having the finances and hiring the appropriate folks, you know, to get out there and market the company itself. And in the IT field too, you know, we're a major supplier for Aruba Networks. And they're pretty large companies. So we're probably second or third largest supplier in the state of Maryland for sure of their products. So we're just trying to push that in different directions, you know, along with the programming and engineers, you know, so that's you know, because it's needed, right? You know, most in what we do, by the time we install it, it's pretty much obsolete, you know, that's technology. So.
I thank y'all for keep rolling when that became disloyal. We talked about this could happen. I need y'all come check my electrical wiring somehow. Give you all my stuff after the
I just want to say great job, Renard. Great job. I mean, he just jumped right in.
I know, I saw. I
We was having a conversation.
I appreciate you. But let me get this question in there. What's the long-term vision for your business? Many folks are saying, so what's next? What's the next frontier for your business? Darrell, what would you say to them?
It's funny, Renard just mentioned that. We're expanding. I mean, a lot of work is in Maryland, but we're expanding into DC and Virginia. We're really, as I mentioned before, Aruba Networks. They're a wireless provider. They do switches, routers, things of that network. So we're expanding with that, along with, we do some Cisco work and the different suppliers. So we're out there kind of pushing that technology, which is needed. And we kind of build our base. So we starting to work with a few other general contractors. So that's kind of where we headed, and it's working well. I mean, we have some good hires and people making it happen out there.
Excellent, excellent. How about you, Renard?
Well, before COVID, we had the opportunity to expand into Virginia. So we was doing work in Richmond and Arlington, which since COVID, we've contracted back to our local area here in Maryland. So we're looking to continue to build out our team so we can get back to that expansion. That's one. Two, I remember when I sat down with our local utility about a project, and their question to me was, what is your exit strategy? If something happens to you, how do we know our project is going to continue? And that was about 3 years ago. So since then, I've been trying to build out my team. That way, whether I'm here or not, our product can continue to go forward with the same quality. So that is one point that I've been focused on, because I want, even at some point, have some plans to make part of the company employee owned. So it can just continue to grow, especially if we're expanding to other states. You need to have teams in multiple places.
No, we've had a number of entrepreneurs who have turned that corner of having their businesses be employee owned, having them have stock in the company and others wise. So wishing you the best on that. Let me ask this question. We're about to run out of time. And this has been a real pleasure. Just the amount of love folks are giving you both, but just your stories are so powerful. And this question was coming up a lot in the chat before I got the internet tried to take me out. But what you both talked about, having these moments in your business when you kept going, even though others might have given up. They may have said, you know what, I'm done with it. What kept you going, and what word of encouragement would you give to others about, staying persevering, staying positive in this time? So Darrell, what would you say? What kept you going?
You have to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to believe in yourself. And when things get tough, work a little harder. Put yourself in the environment and believe you can do it. It's not easy. And I think I've said that a number of times. It's not easy. And in 30 years of business, it's a challenge. So you just believe in yourself. There's a reason you're out there. Just believe in it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Renard, what would you say? What kept you going?
Pretty much like I said, I looked at this business like a child. And I had this belief that if I take care of this child properly, feed it, read to them, give it all that it needs to be healthy and grow strong, then the business will take care of me. So that's what kept me going in those times where it was rough. I mean, parents would know, you had those times, especially baby crying in the middle of the night. You done worked all day, you had to get up early, but you need to take care of your child. And it's going to take that type of dedication in the early days, I believe. It takes that type of dedication, because it's going to be trying. It's going to be challenging. Things are going to go wrong. There are unforeseen challenges on the road. But when you have a plan and then you're working that plan, it's going to pay off. I mean, what you put in is going to be a reflection of what you get out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, let me just say thank you to both of you. I want to make sure people know how to get in contact with you and how to support your businesses. So can you give us your website, your Facebook? And if you don't have them handy, I can do them for you. Darrell?
It's Lanier, WW, of course, Lanier Electronics Group, Inc. And I'm not, the social media aspect of it, we have somebody usually handle that, so.
No, you got, I'm gonna give it to you. It's the same thing. Lanier Group Inc. is your Facebook handle, so folks can get you right there. Absolutely. How about you? How about Renard, how can people get in contact with you?
Your web address is vessel-llc.com. I'm not big on social media as well.
You have a social media too. You are Vessel Electric LLC on Facebook as well.
All right.
Put them in the chat, and we're also going to put them on Facebook so folks can know how to support you. Again, thank you both for what you do, but more importantly, thank you both for who you are. And who you are in the lives of those who work for you, but more importantly, in the lives of those who are community. So just thank you both. This really was an honor for me to get to interview you two entrepreneurs today on Entrepreneurship Matters. Let me give a couple of announcements and then we're going to close out. So next Thursday, we are going to be here with tea companies. We have 2 tea companies, Brittany White of White Tea Company and Sunny Gilliam of T-Volve Cafe, 2 amazing tea entrepreneurs you do not want to miss. Please follow us on JH Connects on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Email us feedback at jhconnects@jhu.edu. Thank you to our community partners, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Health System, the Hopkins Local, the Mayor's Office of Small Minority and Women-Owned Business, the Warnock Foundation, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, as well as Bloomberg Philanthropies. Thank you, Renard. Thank you, Darrell. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.